For a long time, certain verses from the Quran have been pulled out of context, misunderstood, and used as grounds for debate, division, and even attack. But what if the issue is not the text, but how we are reading it? Because when we look at the Bible, we've come to recognize something important. It is layered, it is symbolic, it uses metaphor, poetry, and deeper language. So the question becomes, if the Bible has that level of depth, is it possible the Quran is doing the same? And if so, what happens when we extend the same grace? What happens when we slow down, read fully, and look for the pattern? So today, we are not here to debate. We are not here to attack. We are here to read carefully, look deeper, and see what these verses are actually communicating. Because when we move beyond surface reading, something begins to shift. So let's take our time and walk through these together. Let's start with Surah 4, verse 3, the verse which talks about marrying multiple women. Let's start reading from verse 1. Surah 4:1. All mankind, fear your Lord, who created you from a single soul and created from it its mate, and dispersed from both of them many men and women. And fear Allah, through whom you ask one another, and the wombs. Indeed, Allah is ever over you an observer. 4 verse 2. And give to their orphans their properties, and do not exchange the defective of your own for the good of theirs, and do not consume their wealth into your own. Indeed, that is ever a great sin. 4 verse 3. And if you fear that you will not deal justly with the orphan girls, then marry those that please you of other women, 2 or 3 or 4. But if you fear that you will not be just, then marry only one, or those your right hand possesses. That is more suitable, that you may not incline to injustice. What you can clearly see in the flow, when read together, instead of isolating one line, instead of like isolating verse 4 verse 3 or isolating verse 4 verse 2, when you read them together, you see something. It starts with unity of humanity, one soul, which is shared origin. Then immediately moves into justice and protection of orphans. Then the mention of multiple wives appears within the context of justice, specifically tied to a fear of mistreating vulnerable women, orphan girls. And it ends with a restriction, not encouragement. If you cannot be just, then one. This is exactly why isolating just married to, 3, or 4 creates a completely different impression than what the passage is actually addressing when read as a whole. Now, let's look at these verses symbolically. Starting from Surah 4, verse 1. Mankind represents humanity or consciousness. Fear your Lord means reverence truth, alignment with higher awareness. That's why you see fear your Lord. Then you see and fear Allah. Do you see? Surah 4:1. It starts with all mankind, fear your Lord. Then later in the same verse, it said, and fear Allah. Do you see the difference? Because fear your Lord means reverence truth. Lord is governing principle. Governing principle. So fear your Lord means reverence truth, alignment with higher awareness. Created you from a single soul. The single soul is undivided awareness. The original state of wholeness before fragmentation, before Genesis 3. The place where identity is not split between fear versus truth, ego versus alignment. The single soul is the unified divine life within. The Bible calls it Christ in you. It also calls it the kingdom of God is within you. And created from it its mate. In many symbolic frameworks, spirit represents source, breath, life, all pointing to the Father. Soul represents identity, expression, what we call Son of God. Body is manifestation. The mate represents complementary expression within the same essence. Think of it as inner union. Union of the spirit and soul. The reflective counterpart. The relational aspect of consciousness. The soul is not meant to exist in isolation. It is designed for union, harmony, and reflection. This mirrors Genesis 1, male and female created he them. Not biology, but duality within unity. and dispersed from both many men and women. Symbolically, it's saying from this inner union, all expressions of humanity emerge, meaning every personality, every identity, every expression of consciousness comes from that original unified state. Fear Allah and the wombs. Wombs symbolize source, origin, the place of formation. So this is saying, honor the source, honor the process of formation, honor where life emerges from. In other words, respect truth, respect origin, respect the sacred process of becoming. Bringing it all together, the verse is saying, humanity is one consciousness. That consciousness comes from a single divine life. That life expresses itself in relational unity, soul plus counterparts. From that union, all human expression flows. And the call is return to alignment with the governing truth. That's what the verse is saying symbolically. Verse 4, 4:2, Surah 4:2. The verse that talks about the orphans. On the surface, orphans refer to vulnerable children without guardians. But symbolically, orphans equals aspects of the self disconnected from source. Think of parts of your identity that feel abandoned, unprotected, and anchored in truth. These are unhealed areas, misaligned beliefs, fragments of consciousness that lost connection to the Father. Give to the orphans their property. Symbolically, if orphans are disconnected aspects of self, then their property is what belongs to them by design, identity, worth, clarity, truth, and power. So this becomes restore to every part of yourself what it truly is. In other words, give your mind back its truth. Give your identity back its divine value. Stop living parts of yourself in lack and disconnection. Next line, do not exchange the defective for the good. Symbolically, it's saying, don't replace truth with distortion. Don't trade clarity for confusion, worth for shame, truth for false doctrine. It's the pattern of settling for lesser beliefs and accepting corrupted identity. In other words, don't downgrade your consciousness. Next line, do not consume their wealth into your own. Now, this is subtle and deep. If the orphans are vulnerable aspects of self, this becomes, don't exploit your own broken areas. Don't use your wounds to feed ego, control, and survival patterns. Examples in real life: using trauma as identity instead of healing it, using pain to manipulate or justify misalignment, living from lack while suppressing truth. So, don't feed on brokenness, restore it. Next line, indeed, that is a great sin. Sin here is misalignment. So, what is the misalignment? Failing to restore what is broken. Choosing distortion over truth. Exploiting instead of healing. Let's put verse 1 and verse 2 together. Surah 4, verse 1 and 2. Let's put them together and watch the flow. Verse 1. You come from one unified divine source. You are designed for alignment and wholeness. Verse 2. Therefore, restore what is disconnected within you. Don't corrupt what is pure. Don't exploit brokenness. Why these matters before verse 3? This is everything. Because verse 3, the one people debate, is built on this foundation. If you haven't restored the orphans, learned justice within yourself, stopped exploiting brokenness, then you are not ready to handle which is responsibility over others. Before the conversation ever becomes about marriage, the scripture pauses and looks inward. Have you restored what is broken within you? Have you honored what was once neglected? Have you chosen truth over distortion? Because a person who has not learned justice within will always misinterpret responsibility without. Now, we arrive at the verse people isolate. But when you read it through the flow of verse 1, unity, and verse 2, restoration of the broken, verse 3 no longer reads as permission. It reads as responsibility under consciousness. Surah 4:3 says, and if you fear that you will not deal justly with the orphan girls, then marry those that please you of women, 2 or 3 or 4. But if you fear that you will not be just, then 1. That is more suitable, that you may not incline to injustice. The key anchor: if you fear you will not deal justly. This is the foundation of the entire verse. Not desire, not preference, not culture. Justice, which is alignment, balance, right order. Fear is awareness, reverence, not terror. So this becomes, if you are aware that you are not aligned enough to handle responsibility, from verse 2, orphans equals unprotected, vulnerable aspects of life or consciousness. Here, it narrows to relational vulnerability, that which depends on your integrity. So this can represent people in your care, relationships that require responsibility, even aspects of your inner life that require nurturing and protection. Then marry those that please you, 2, 3, or 4. Now, this is where people stop reading. But symbolically, this is not about indulgence. It's about capacity and structure. Marry in this framework. It's not just romance. It is symbolic language for union, commitment, responsibility, and integration. So this becomes engage in unions, take on responsibilities, enter into relational commitments. Then we see but. This is within capacity. Let's look at the numbers 2, 3, or 4 as states of consciousness, not quantity of women. States of consciousness. The number 2 represents polarity, duality, light versus darkness, truth versus illusion, spirit versus ego, alignment versus misalignment. This is the stage where you are aware of contrast. In your awakening journey, you begin to see the difference. You recognize what is true versus what is distorted. The number 3 represents movement from one state to another. is the space of processing, breaking old patterns, shifting identity. This is awakening in motion. The number 4 represents totality, stability, manifestation. We have 4 directions, 4 seasons, 4 corners of the earth. This is established reality. What was internal becomes structured. What was understood becomes lived. This is embodied alignment. So now, if we read Surah 4 verse 3 through this lens, the number 2, 3, or 4 is no longer about number of women. It becomes levels of relational and inner capacity. Because woman, women, wife mostly represent the soul, your soul, the emotional realm, the inner world. So 2, 3, or 4 women, it's not about quantity. It's about levels of relational and inner capacity. The number 2 points to, can you handle polarity? Can you navigate contrast without losing alignment? Can you hold tension without reacting from ego? The number 3 points to, can you sustain transformation? Can you move through change without collapsing? Can you remain grounded while your identity is shifting? The number 4 points to, can you embody stability? Can you live what you understand? Can you sustain alignment in real life? And then the verse says, but if you fear you will not be judged, then 1. This is powerful. Because now we see 1, which is unity, alignment, simplicity. Return to center. Return to wholeness. Return to undivided consciousness. So the verse is saying, you may engage life at different levels of complexity. You may move through polarity, transformation, and manifestation. But if you cannot maintain justice, which is alignment, return to oneness. The real message of the verse is not take more, but know your level of consciousness. Because a person in duality, too, will struggle. A person in transition, 3, is still unstable. A person in manifestation, 4, must sustain it. So, the safeguard is, if you cannot hold it with justice, simplify your life back to alignment. Let's look at relatable examples of Surah 4, verse 1 to 3. Surah 4:1, all mankind fear your Lord. Think of it like this. You are about to make a decision. Maybe reacting in anger, cutting someone off, or choosing something you know doesn't sit right. But you have that inner voice that pauses you and says, this is not who you are. That is what fear your Lord looks like. Not fear as in panic, but awareness of truth before you act. Who created you from a single soul? No matter where people come from, be it different countries, different cultures, or different personalities, at the core, we all want love, peace, to be seen, to be valued. It's like different phones, same operating system. That's the single soul. And created from it its mate. Think of how your thoughts and your conscience interact. Your emotions and your awareness speak to each other. Or even in relationships, you are drawn to people who reflect something in you. Like when someone mirrors your peace or exposes your triggers. That mate is the reflective counterpart that reveals you to yourself. You know how sometimes you meet someone and you just say, I vibe with this person. We just click. It's effortless. Why? Because something in them is reflecting something in you. Your energy recognizes their energy. Your mindset aligns with their mindset. That's what this is pointing to. Connection is reflection. And even the opposite is true. Sometimes you meet someone and feel something is off. That's reflection too. And dispersed from both many men and women. From that same essence comes many expressions. Like one language, many conversations. One genre, many songs. We are all different, but coming from the same source. And fear Allah, through whom you ask one another. When you say, can you help me? I need you. You are not just speaking to a person. You are appealing to something deeper. Shared humanity. Shared conscience. That invisible thing that makes someone say, I can't ignore this. I have to show up. And the wombs. Think about where you came from. The people who carried you. The environment that shaped you. The spaces that formed you. This is saying, don't forget your source. Don't dishonor what carried you. Indeed, Allah is ever over you, an observer. Not in a scary way, but like you can lie to people, but not to yourself. You can pretend, but deep down, you know. It's that inner knowing that says, this is aligned, this is not. Surah 4:2. Give to the orphans their property. Think of someone who grew up never affirmed, never told they were enough. Now they struggle with confidence. Giving them their property looks like helping them heal, restoring their worth. Even within yourself, giving yourself back your voice, giving yourself back your value. Do not exchange the defective for the good. This is when you know better, but choose what's easier. Like choosing a toxic situation over peace. Choosing validation over self-respect. That's trading something valuable for something less. Do not consume their wealth into your own. This happens more than we realize. Using someone's vulnerability to control them. Taking advantage of someone who trusts you. Or even, I've been hurt, so it's okay for me to hurt others. That's feeding off brokenness instead of healing it. Indeed, that is a great sin. You feel it immediately. That discomfort, that weight, that's your inner alignment saying, this is not right. Surah 4:3. If you fear, you will not deal justly. Before you step into something, be it a relationship, a responsibility, or a leadership role, you pause and ask, am I really ready for this? Can I handle this the right way? With the vulnerable. This is about people who depend on your integrity. Someone who trusts you. Someone who is open with you. Someone who believes in you. If mishandled, they can be deeply affected. Two, 3, or 4. Life gives you options, multiple responsibilities, multiple relationships, multiple directions. But this is not about taking more. It's about what you can handle well. Surah 4:3 mirrors 1 Corinthians 10 verse 23. It says, all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. Not all things build up. Both acknowledge freedom. The Bible, all things are lawful. The Quran, 2, 3, or 4. This is not restriction. This is recognition of possibility. You can do many things. You can take on more. You can choose multiple paths. Both introduce a higher filter. The Bible, not all things are helpful. The Quran, if you fear, you will not be just. Now the conversation shifts from what is allowed to what is aligned. Both lead to intentional restraint. The Bible, not all things build up. The Quran, then 1. This is the wisdom. Not take more, but choose what you can sustain with integrity. Relatable reality. You can entertain multiple relationships. Say yes to every opportunity. Carry multiple responsibilities. But what happens? Your energy gets scattered. People feel neglected. Your peace disappears. So you pause and say, let me simplify. Let me focus. That's not limitation. That's alignment. The deeper truth. Both texts are teaching the same principle. Freedom without awareness leads to imbalance. Freedom with awareness leads to alignment. Because maturity is not doing everything you are allowed to do. It is choosing only what you can carry well. The hidden unity. When you remove the surface language, you begin to see the Bible is not contradicting the Quran. And the Quran is not contradicting the Bible either. They are both guiding you toward responsible consciousness, guiding you toward integrity in action and alignment over excess. So the question is no longer, how much can I have? The real question becomes, what can I handle with truth? Because you don't prove your freedom by how much you take on. You reveal your wisdom by what you choose to limit. Before you add more to your life, pause and ask yourself, can I carry this with justice, with integrity, with alignment? Because sometimes the highest level of awareness is choosing one. Let's look at all those whom your right hand possesses. This comes after justice, responsibility, and capacity. So whatever this phrase means, it must still align with justice, not exploitation. In the historical setting, right-hand possessors referred to people under one's authority or care, often tied to servants, captives of war, dependents in a household. But even within that system, the Quran repeatedly emphasized fair treatment, kindness, gradual liberation. So even at the surface level, the direction was moved toward justice, not abuse. Now, let's look at this symbolically. Right hand represents power, authority, action, capability. Relatable example. Your right hand is what you actively use to build, decide, act, take responsibility. So symbolically, your right hand is your capacity to act and govern. Possess, not ownership in an ego sense, but what is within your responsibility. What is entrusted to your care. Putting it together, those whom your right hand possesses equals what is under your responsibility, capacity, and stewardship. Relatable everyday examples. Your responsibilities, be it your job, your projects, your commitments. These are things you are responsible for handling well. People who depend on you, maybe children, mentees, or team members. They are not owned, but they are entrusted to your care. Even your inner life, your habits, your emotions, your discipline. These are also things under your hand. Meaning, you are responsible for how you manage them. So the verse is actually saying, if you cannot handle expansion, stay within what you already have responsibility over. Relatable life scenario. You are overwhelmed. Too many commitments. Too many relationships. Too many expectations. Instead of adding more, wisdom says, focus on what's already in your hands. Handle what you already carry well. Just because you can expand doesn't mean you should. Sometimes growth looks like stewarding what is already in your hand. Before you reach for more, look at what is already in your hands. Because what is entrusted to you is not there to be controlled. It is there to be honored. And if you can learn to carry what you already have with truth, then you won't need excess to prove your capacity. Next is Surah 23, verse 5 to 7. Verse 5, and those who guard their private parts. 23 verse 6, except from their spouses or those whom their right hands possess, for indeed they are not to be blamed. 23 verse 7, but whoever seeks beyond that, then those are the transgressors. Notice the structure: guarding, exception, boundary. This is not promoting indulgence. It is defining discipline and limits. Verse 5, guard their private parts. Surface meaning: sexual discipline, modesty, self-control. Symbolically, private parts are not just physical. They represent your intimate energy. What is deeply personal and vulnerable? What should not be given carelessly? Relatable examples of guard their private parts. This is like not sharing your body with just anyone. Not giving emotional intimacy to people who haven't earned trust. not exposing your deepest self in unsafe spaces. Even beyond sexuality, oversharing your life with strangers, giving access to people who misuse it, that is not guarding your private parts. Verse 6, except from their spouses. Symbolically, spouse represents committed, aligned, intentional union, not just marriage on paper, but trust, agreement, mutual responsibility. Relatable example: you feel safe opening up to someone who has proven consistency, someone who honors you, someone who is aligned with you. That's different from random connections, temporary attention, surface level attraction. Or those whom their right hands possess. What is under your responsibility and aligned with your capacity? This is like engaging in something you can handle responsibly. Not acting out of impulse, but out of awareness. Example: you don't just follow desire. You act within what you can manage with integrity. For indeed, they are not to be blamed. Why? Because it is aligned, responsible, and contained. Not chaotic, not impulsive, not exploitative. Verse 7, whoever seeks beyond that, those are the transgressors. Symbolically, this is where boundaries are crossed. Going beyond alignment. Acting from impulse instead of awareness. Expanding without discipline. Relatable examples. This looks like cheating in relationships, compulsive behavior, chasing pleasure without responsibility, giving yourself to people who don't honor you, or even emotionally entertaining connections you know are unhealthy. Seeking validation in ways that drain you. Those are the transgressors, not bad people, but people operating in misalignment. Surah 23 verse 5 to 7 and Surah 70 verses 29 to 31 are identical. Both say, guard your private parts. Stay within aligned boundaries. Do not go beyond, or you fall into misalignment. This is self-mastery. discipline over impulse, alignment over desire. Let's compare this to Paul's language. 1 Corinthians 6:12 says, all things are lawful for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. Meaning, you may have freedom, but don't let your desires control you. 1 Corinthians 9:27 says, I discipline my body and bring it into subjection. Meaning, I don't let my impulses lead. I train myself to stay aligned. Galatians 5:16 says, walk in the spirit, and you will not fulfill the desires of the flesh. Meaning, when you are aligned, you are not driven by uncontrolled desire. Galatians 5:22-23 talks about self-control. Self-control is not restriction. It is evidence of alignment. Desire is not the enemy. The Quran acknowledges desire. Paul says all things are lawful. Lack of control is the problem. The Quran says whoever goes beyond are the transgressors. Paul says, I will not be mastered by anything. The goal is mastery, not suppression. The Quran, guard, contain, align. Paul, discipline, bring into subjection. Relatable example. You feel something, be it attraction, anger, craving, or impulse. Now you have two options. Follow it immediately, or pause and choose. If you follow every impulse, you lose control. Your life becomes reactive. You create imbalance. But if you develop mastery, you choose intentionally. You act from awareness. You stay aligned. The deeper unity. When you remove religious labels, you begin to see the Quran is teaching guarding your energy. Paul is teaching not being mastered by your desires. Both are saying, don't let impulse lead your life. The Quran says, guard yourself. Paul says, don't be mastered. Different words, same truth. Freedom is not doing everything you feel. It is having the power to choose what you follow. Because the moment your desires control you, you are no longer free. And true alignment is not the absence of desire, it is the mastery of it. Next is Surah 4, verse 24 to 25. 4:24. And also forbidden to you are married women, except those whom your right hands possess. This is the decree of Allah upon you. And lawful to you are all others beyond this, provided that you seek them with your wealth, desiring chastity, not unlawful desire. So, for whatever you enjoy of marriage from them, give them their due compensation as an obligation. And there is no blame upon you for what you mutually agree upon after the obligation. Indeed, Allah is ever knowing and wise. 4:25. And whoever among you cannot find the means to marry free believing women, then he may marry from those whom your right hands possess of believing women. And Allah is most knowing about your faith. You believers are of one another. So, marry them with the permission of their people and give them their due compensation according to what is acceptable. They should be chaste, neither of those who commit unlawful intercourse randomly, nor those who take secret lovers. But once they are sheltered in marriage, if they commit immorality, then for them is half the punishment of free women. This is for him among you who fears sin. But to be patient is better for you, and Allah is forgiving and merciful. Notice what keeps repeating. Boundaries, responsibility, compensation, chastity, and restraint. This is not promoting indulgence. It is regulating desire through justice and discipline. Now, let's break down verse 24. Forbidden married women. Relatable example. This is simple but powerful. It's saying, don't enter what is already committed. Don't interfere in someone's relationship. Don't pursue what belongs to another agreement. In modern terms, don't cross boundaries that are already established. Except those whom your right hands possess. What is under your responsibility within your aligned capacity? Meaning, relationships must still be within structure, responsibility, and accountability. Seek them with your wealth, desiring chastity, not unlawful desire. This is a major key. Symbolically, wealth represents what you invest, be it time, energy, effort, intention. Chastity represents alignment, discipline, integrity. So this becomes, don't enter relationships casually. Enter with intention and responsibility. Relatable example, not just vibing without direction. Not using people for temporary satisfaction. not entering connections with no accountability. Instead, you invest, you commit, you show up with intention. Give them their due compensation. This is about honor, fairness, and responsibility. Relatable example. Don't take from someone emotionally without giving back. Don't enjoy someone's presence without honoring them. Don't benefit from someone while neglecting their value. Mutually agree after obligation. Meaning, after the foundation is established, there is flexibility, there is mutual agreement. Relatable example. Healthy relationships communicate, adjust, agree together, not forced, not one-sided. Verse 25 breakdown. If you cannot find the means, meaning life has different levels of capacity. Not everyone is in the same position financially, emotionally, or structurally. Relatable example. You may not be ready for a full commitment yet. You may not have the resources. So the instruction adjusts. Operate within your capacity. Allah knows your faith. You are of one another, meaning equality at the core. No one is less than at the level of essence. Relatable example, different roles, same value, different circumstances, same humanity. Marry with permission, give compensation, meaning structure plus accountability plus honor. Relatable example, not secret relationships, not hidden arrangements, not unclear commitments. Everything is acknowledged, respected, structured. Chaste, not random, not secret lavish. This is very clear. No chaos, no hidden behavior, no impulsive lifestyle. Relatable example, not entertaining multiple hidden connections, not living double lives, not acting from impulse. If they commit immorality, meaning actions have consequences. Relatable example, breaking trust has impact. Choices carry weight. But patience is better for you. This is the highest wisdom. Just because something is allowed doesn't mean it is the best option. Relatable example: waiting instead of rushing into relationships. Choosing discipline over immediate gratification. Choosing growth over impulse. The full message. What Surah 4 is saying: respect boundaries. Enter relationships with intention. Honor people. Don't use them. Operate within your capacity. Avoid secrecy and chaos. Choose patience over impulse. This aligns again with 1 Corinthians 10 verse 23. Not everything is beneficial. 1 Corinthians 6 verse 12. Don't be mastered. The chaos we see in modern dating today is exactly what these verses were trying to prevent. Because when you read this slowly, you realize this is not about control. It's about protecting people from being used. What is seek them with your wealth? Modern reality. Today, people want connection without effort. Intimacy without investment. Access without responsibility. Let's just vibe. Let's see where it goes. No structure. No clarity. No intention. What the verse is saying: seek with your wealth means bring something of value. Your time, your energy, your consistency, your intention. Relatable truth: if someone is not willing to invest, they are not ready to connect. Desiring chastity, not unlawful desire. Modern reality. A lot of connections today are driven by attraction, loneliness, validation, and temporary pleasure, not alignment. What the verse is saying: don't enter relationships from impulse. Enter from clarity and discipline. Relatable truth: there is a difference between I like you and I'm ready to build something with you. Give them their due compensation. Modern reality. People today take emotional support. They take attention. They take intimacy, but give nothing back. What the verse is saying: give them their due compensation. Don't benefit from someone without honoring them. Relatable truth: don't waste people's time. Don't take access to someone's heart without responsibility. Don't enjoy someone and leave them empty. That's what the verse is saying. Not secret lovers. Modern reality. Hidden relationships. Side situations. Talking stages with multiple people. No clarity. No accountability. What the verse is saying, no secrecy, no double lives, no hidden connections. Relatable truth. If something has to be hidden, it's already misaligned. If you cannot, then be patient. Modern reality. People rush into relationships they are not ready for. They rush into connections they cannot sustain. They rush into commitments they cannot honor because of pressure, loneliness, and fear of missing out. What the verse is saying, just because you desire it doesn't mean it's time. Relatable truth. Sometimes the most mature thing you can say is, I'm not ready yet. You are of one another. Modern reality. People treat others like options, experiences, temporary entertainment. What the verse is saying, you are of one another. What it's saying, you are not separate. What you do to others affects you. Relatable truth. How you treat people matters. What you normalize becomes your environment. The big picture. Modern dating often looks like access without responsibility, intimacy without structure, desire without discipline. But these verses are saying, slow down, be intentional, honor people, operate within your capacity. The problem is not dating, it's how we approach it. Because when desire leads, people get hurt. But when alignment leads, people are honored. You don't protect your heart by avoiding people. You protect your heart by choosing how you enter connection. Because the right connection is not built on attraction alone. It is built on alignment, intention, and responsibility. Next is Surah 24, verse 32 to 33. Surah 24, 32. And marry the unmarried among you, and the righteous of faith among your male and female servants. If they are poor, Allah will enrich them from his bounty, and Allah is all-encompassing and knowing. 24:33. And let those who cannot find the means to marry keep themselves chaste, until Allah enriches them from his bounty. And those who seek a contract for emancipation from among those whom your right hands possess, then grant it to them, if you know there is good in them, and give them from the wealth of Allah which he has given you. And do not compel your girls to prostitution if they desire chastity, seeking the temporary interest of worldly life. And if someone compels them, then indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful to them. Again, notice the pattern. Encouragement of union, recognition of limitation, instruction protection against exploitation. This is not just about marriage. It's about dignity, timing, and protection of the vulnerable. Let's break down verse 32. Surah 24, verse 32. Let's break it down. Marry the unmarried among you. Surface meaning: encourage people to enter committed relationships. Symbolically, support healthy, aligned unions. Relatable example: instead of promoting casual culture, glorifying situationships, you encourage stability, commitment, and intentional relationships. And the righteous of faith among you. Meaning, not just anyone, those who are ready, aligned, and responsible. Relatable example: not alike them, so let's go for it. But are they emotionally ready? Are they stable? Can they handle commitment? If they are poor, Allah will enrich them. This is powerful. Lack of resources should not stop alignment. Relatable example: people often say, I'll wait until I'm fully ready, be it financially, emotionally, or perfectly. But this is saying growth can happen within responsibility. Let's break down verse 33. If they cannot find the means, let them remain chaste. Meaning, if you are not ready, don't force it. Relatable example: instead of rushing into relationships, feeling loneliness with connection, you choose discipline, patience, and self-control. Those whom your right hands possess, grant them freedom. Symbolic meaning. What is under your control should not be trapped. Allow growth, independence, and elevation. Looking at those whom your right hands possess, grant them freedom. Symbolic meaning. What is under your control should not be trapped. Allow growth, independence, and elevation. Relatable example. Don't control people who depend on you. Don't keep people in positions that limit them. Help people grow, not stay stuck. Give them from what you have been given. Meaning, share what you have, be it resources, opportunities, or support. Relatable example. Helping someone level up. Mentoring. Supporting someone's independence. Do not compel them seeking worldly gain. This is deep. It's saying, don't exploit people for your benefit. Modern example. Pressuring someone into intimacy. Manipulating someone emotionally. Using someone for status, money, or validation. If they desire chastity, meaning respect people who choose alignment. Relatable example. If someone says, I want to take things slow, I'm not ready for that. Honor that. Allah is forgiving and merciful, meaning, even if someone has been in situations, pressured, manipulated, or misaligned, restoration is always possible. What the Bible calls salvation. Salvation is restoration. The full message. What the text is saying. Encourage aligned relationships. Don't rush what you are not ready for. Choose chastity over impulse. Don't exploit people. Support others' growth and freedom. Respect boundaries. This aligns again with 1 Corinthians 10:23. Not everything is beneficial. 1 Corinthians 6:12. Don't be mastered. Galatians 5:22-23. Self-control. Not everything you desire is meant to be rushed. Not every connection is meant to be entered immediately. And not every opportunity is meant to be taken without preparation. Because alignment has timing, and wisdom knows when to move and when to wait. Next is Surah 90, verse 12 to 16. 90:12. And what can make you know what the steep path is? 90:13. It is the freeing of a slave. 90:14. Or feeding on a day of severe hunger. 90:15. An orphan of near relationship. 90:16. Or a needy person in distress. This passage is answering a question. What does true elevation look like? What is the steep path? And the answer is not status, wealth, or appearance. It is how you treat the vulnerable. Relatable example. The steep path is the hard choice, the uncomfortable decision, the path most people avoid, like choosing integrity when lying is easier, helping someone when it costs you, doing what is right when no one is watching. The steep path the Quran talks about is what Jesus calls the narrow way in Matthew 7, verse 13 to 14. It says, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the way that leads to life, and few find it. The same structure, two parts. Quran, steep path versus easy living. Jesus, narrow path versus broad path. One is easy, one is difficult. Broad path, comfortable, common, effortless. Steep path or narrow way requires effort, awareness, sacrifice. And most choose the easy path. Jesus says many enter through it. The Quran calls it steep because few take it. The difficult path leads to life. Jesus says it leads to life. The Quran says it leads to elevation, righteousness, alignment. Relatable examples of the broad path, the easy way. Ignoring people in need. Chasing comfort over growth. Choosing convenience over integrity. Living only for self. This is easy. This is common. This is crowded. The narrow or steep path. Helping when it costs you. Choosing integrity when it's uncomfortable. Showing up for others consistently. Disciplining yourself. This is hard. This requires awareness. This is rare. Why it's called narrow and steep? Because it limits ego, selfishness, impulse, and requires intention, discipline, and love in action. This is not about physical roads. It's about states of consciousness. The broad path, reactive living, impulse-driven, comfort-centered. The narrow or steep path, intentional living, disciplined, aligned with truth. When you remove the surface language, Jesus says, few choose the path that leads to life. The Quran says, the path that elevates is steep. Same truth. Growth is not automatic. Alignment is not easy. Elevation requires choice. The path that transforms you will never be the one that is crowded. The path is narrow because it asks you to let go of what weighs you down. The path is steep because it calls you higher than where you are. And few walk it, not because it is hidden, but because it requires something most people avoid: discipline, responsibility, and love in action. Verse 13, freeing a slave. Surface meaning, freeing someone from bondage. Symbolic meaning, releasing people from limitation, emotional bondage, mental bondage, situational bondage. Relatable examples: helping someone break out of a toxic situation, encouraging someone who feels stuck or worthless, giving someone an opportunity that changes their life. Even within yourself, it's freeing yourself from limiting beliefs. Verse 14, feeding on a day of hunger. Meaning, showing up when it matters most, not when it's convenient. Relatable examples: supporting someone when they are at their lowest, being there during hard times, not just good times, giving when it costs you something. Verse 15, an orphan of near relationship. Symbolic meaning, this is very specific. Someone close to you who lacks support. Relatable examples: a family member struggling, a friend going through something silently, someone in your circle who feels unseen. This is not distant charity. This is personal responsibility. Verse 16, a needy person in distress. Meaning someone overwhelmed, burdened, or stuck. Relatable examples: someone dealing with anxiety, loss, or pressure. Someone financially struggling. Someone who feels like they have no way out. The big shift. Notice the contrast with modern culture. Self first. Convenience. Comfort. Image. This passage speaks of sacrifice, responsibility, compassion, and action. This aligns with the heart of what Paul the Apostle teaches. Galatians 5:13 says, "Do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another in love." Philippians 2:4 says, "Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others." The deeper message. The steep path is not avoiding wrong only. It is actively choosing love, responsibility, and sacrifice. The path that elevates you is not the one that feels easy. It is the one that asks something of you. To give when it would be easier to keep. To show up when it will be easier to disappear. To lift others even while you are still rising. Because the highest form of alignment is not just how you live for yourself, but how you show up for others. Again, what Surah 90 verse 12 to 16 calls the steep path is the same thing the Bible calls love in action. From Surah 90, free the enslaved, feed in times of hunger, care for the orphan, support the distressed. This is not belief alone. This is what love looks like when it moves. Matthew 22 verse 39 says, "Love your neighbor as yourself." What does that actually mean? Not just emotion, not just words. It means if they are hungry, you feed if you can. If they are struggling, you support if you can. If they are stuck, you help lift if you can. Another layer, 1 John 3:17. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no compassion, how can the love of God be in that person? And this is something we see a lot today. Let's take it again. 1 John 3:17. We see a lot of this today. And yet they claim to know God. But listen, if anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no compassion, how can the love of God be in that person? Meaning, love is not what you say. Love is what you do when someone is in need. The perfect alignment. Surah 90 says, free them, feed them, help them. The Bible says, love them. Same message, different words. Because love is not abstract. It is freeing, feeding, lifting, and showing up. Relatable example. Someone around you is struggling mentally, financially, or emotionally. You have two options. Look away or step in. Looking away is not my problem. I'll pray for you, but do nothing. Oh, we see this a lot. We see this a lot in institutions. When you need help, we will pray for you. Oh, pray to God. But when they need something, they come and tell you, God said, sow a seed. God said, bring this amount of money. But when you need help, you are told, go pray. We will pray for you. Stepping in. This is checking on them. Helping practically if you can. Supporting where you can. That is the steep path. Why it is called steep? Because it's not easy. It costs time, energy, and comfort. It's easier to scroll past, ignore, stay comfortable. But the path of love says, pause and show up. This aligns with what Paul the Apostle teaches. Galatians 5:14 says, the entire law is fulfilled in this: love your neighbor as yourself. Meaning, everything comes back to this: how you treat people. The deeper revelation. Now bring everything together. Surah 4, handle relationships with integrity. Surah 23 and 24, discipline yourself. Surah 90, show up for others. The full journey, master yourself. Align your relationships. Serve others. You cannot say you are aligned and ignore the broken around you. Because the proof of alignment is not in what you know. It is in how you show up. Love is not proven in comfort. It is revealed in sacrifice. And the path that elevates you will always be the one that lifts someone else along the way. Next is Surah 2 verse 223. Your wives are a tilth, field for you. So come to your tilth as you will, and send something good ahead for yourselves. And be mindful of Allah, and know that you will meet him, and give good news to the believers. There are three parts here. A metaphor, tilth, which is field. A statement, come as you will. a boundary or reminder. Be mindful, you will meet him. Most people stop at part 2, which is come as you will. But the meaning is shaped by all 3 together. Tilth or field is cultivated, protected, nurtured, intentionally cared for. Genesis 2:15 says, the Lord God took the man and put him in the garden to work it and keep it. Same language used, garden and tilth, which is symbolic for field. Both are places of cultivation. What was man's role in Genesis 2? Not domination, not consumption, cultivation and protection. To tend, to nurture, to preserve, to be responsible. Now, read Surah 2, verse 223 again. Your wives are a tilth. This is not saying use. It is saying, care for what has been entrusted to you. Relatable example, think about a garden. If you neglect it, it withers. If you overuse it, it breaks down. If you ignore it, it produces nothing. But if you water it, nurture it, protect it, it flourishes. Relationship application. This becomes, you don't use people. You invest in them. You don't take without giving. You build something together. The deeper pattern. Genesis 2, you are placed in a garden, which is life, relationships, responsibilities. Your role is to keep and cultivate. Surah 2, your relationships are like a field. Your role is to honor and cultivate. Remember, when you see woman, wife, or anything feminine, symbolically, it represents your soul, your inner world, the emotional realm. That's what it represents. This removes the misunderstanding completely. Instead of control, access, entitlement, it becomes stewardship, responsibility, intentional care. Cross-scripture truth. Both are teaching. What is given to you is not for exploitation. It is for cultivation. You were never placed in the garden to consume it. You were placed there to care for it. The field is your soul. The moment you stop seeing people as experiences and start seeing them as gardens, everything changes. Because a garden is not rushed. It is nurtured, not taken from, but invested into. And the life you receive from it will always reflect how well you cared for it. Surah 2 verse 223 mirrors Paul's language in Ephesians 5:25. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church. It also mirrors Ephesians 5:28-29. He who loves his wife loves himself. No one ever hated his own body, but nourishes and cherishes it. What is Paul saying? Not control, not dominance. Nourish, cherish, care for her as part of yourself. And that is why in the same Ephesians 5, he says, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. Paul never taught domination. But most times, when this passage is used to preach, they conveniently take out the one that says, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. They take it out conveniently. But submission is both ways. And submission is not subjugation. It is alignment to truth. We both align to truth. That's why it said what? Submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. Fear is reverence. Fear is respect. God represents truth, ultimate reality. So submission is aligning to truth, not domination. Peter also says in 1 Peter 3 verse 7, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor. What is Peter emphasizing? Honor, understanding, care in how you treat her. Now connect everything. Tilth, cultivate the field. Garden in Genesis, tend and keep. Paul, nourish and cherish. Peter, honor and understand. Same message. What is given to you is not for exploitation. It is for intentional care. Relatable example. Think about how people treat relationships today. Misaligned pattern, taking without giving, using people emotionally, neglecting care, lack of responsibility. The aligned pattern seen in all scriptures: investing time, nurturing growth, protecting the connection, honoring the person. Deeper insight. Paul says, love your wife as your own body. Why? Because you are one flesh. So harming her is harming yourself. And this matches the tilth perfectly. A field you neglect stops producing. A field you damage reflects that damage back. You cannot claim love and fail to nurture what you are connected to. Love is not proven in words. It is revealed in care, in patience, in understanding, in how you handle someone's heart when it is placed in your hands. Because what is given to you is not meant to be used. It is meant to be nurtured. After cultivating the garden, becoming one flesh, walking the narrow or steep path, the question becomes, what governs all of this internally? And this is where bringing every thought comes in. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 10:5, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. What does this mean? Not suppression, not control through force, alignment of the mind with truth. Christ is not the last name of Jesus. Christ is the divine life he revealed, the anointing he lived from. Jesus is the man, the vessel. Christ is the divine life he revealed, the substance. So when Paul says bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ, he's not talking about control through force or suppression, but alignment of the mind with truth. Surah 23 and 24 talks about chastity. Guard your body. Guard your actions. Surah 4, it's about relationships. Act with responsibility. Stay within alignment. Surah 90, the steep path. Choose love in action. Genesis, one flesh. Union creates shared reality. Now Paul reveals the root. All of this starts with your thoughts. Relatable example. Before any action happens, there is a thought. Attraction starts as a thought. Anger starts as a thought. Temptation starts as a thought. Unaligned pattern. Thought comes. You follow it immediately. I feel it, so I act on it. Aligned pattern. Thought comes. You observe it. You choose whether to follow. What is obedience of Christ? Like I said, Christ is not the last name of Jesus. It is alignment, truth, higher awareness. So when we say Jesus the Christ, we are saying Jesus the man who lived in alignment, in truth, in higher awareness. He lived it. He showed you what it means to live in alignment, what it means to live in truth, what it means to live in higher awareness. He showed you. So Christ is alignment, truth, higher awareness. So this becomes every thought must pass through. Is this aligned? Is this true? Does this lead to life? Relatable examples in relationships. Thoughts, let me just enjoy this person casually. Alignment, ask, can I handle this responsibly? In emotion, thought, let me react, I'm angry. Alignment, ask, will this build or destroy? In desire, thought, I want this now. Alignment, ask, is this the right time? Why this is powerful? Because if you don't master your thoughts will master you. Cross scripture unity again. Qur'an, chastity and discipline. Guard yourself. Jesus, narrow path. Choose the harder aligned path. Paul, inner work. Capture the thought before it becomes action. The full process. Thought appears. You become aware. You align it with truth. Then you act. You don't lose alignment in your actions. You lose it in your thoughts first. Not every thought is meant to become a decision. Not every feeling is meant to become an action. And not every desire is meant to be followed. Because true freedom is not the absence of thoughts. It is the power to choose which ones lead your life. Next is Surah 8, verse 12. When your Lord revealed to the angels, I am with you, so strengthen those who believe. I will cast fear into the hearts of those who disbelieve. So strike above the necks and strike from them every fingertip. Notice the sequence. Strengthening believers. Fear entering opposing forces. Striking imagery. So this is describing a conflict dynamic. Historically, this is connected to a battle setting. Language like strike the necks, strike the fingertips was battle imagery. Now, let's look at it symbolically. Those who disbelieve, not just people, but states of misalignment, patterns that oppose truth. Angels, agents of alignment, forces that support truth. Strengthen those who believe. Reinforce alignment within you. Stabilize truth consciousness. Strike above the necks. The neck connects the head, mind, or thoughts to the body, actions, expression. So, it represents the bridge between thoughts and action. Strike above the neck becomes cut off the source of misalignment at its roots, not physical violence, but interrupt the pattern before it manifests. Don't allow yourself to turn back into misalignment. Strike every fingertip. Fingertips represent action, execution, what you do in the physical world. So this becomes stop misalignment, not just in thought, but also in action. The full symbolic flow. Strengthen belief, stabilize alignment. Fear enters misalignment, false patterns begin to collapse. Strike the neck. Cut off the connection between wrong thought and action. Strike the fingertips. Stop misaligned actions from manifesting. Relatable example. You have a thought. Let me go back to that unhealthy pattern. If you don't interrupt it, the thought grows. It becomes a decision. It becomes an action. If you strike the neck, you interrupt it at the thought level. If you strike the fingertips, you stop yourself from acting on it. Cross-scripture connection. This aligns perfectly with 2 Corinthians 10:5, bringing every thought into alignment. Romans 8:6, the mind aligned with life versus death. The battle is not outside of you. It is between what you allow to continue and what you choose to cut off. Not every thought needs to be entertained, and not every impulse deserves expression. Because the moment you learn where to interrupt the pattern is the moment you begin to walk in alignment. Surah 8:12 mirrors Psalm 137 verse 9. It says, "Blessed is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rock." A verse that sounds violent when read at surface level. This verse comes from a moment of exile, pain, grief, and oppression. It reflects intense human emotion, not a direct instruction. So, before symbolism, it is expressing the cry of a wounded people. The key symbol, little ones or infants. Symbolically, this represents early stage thoughts, small beginnings of patterns, undeveloped impulses. Relatable example, a small thought of resentment, a subtle temptation, a slight misalignment. At this stage, it's still little, still an infant. Dash against the stone. Psalm 118 verse 22 says, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." 1 Peter 2:6 says, "Christ is the cornerstone." So symbolically, stone represents truth, foundation, discernment, or alignment. Putting it together, little ones represent small thoughts, early impulses. Dash against the stone means test them against truth. Confront them with discernment. Don't let them grow into patterns. Now connect back to Surah 8:12. Strike the neck. This is cut off thoughts. Action pathway. Strike the fingertips, which is stop misaligned actions. Same pattern. Deal with misalignment early and decisively. Relatable example, a thought appears. Let me go back to that toxic situation. If you let it grow, it becomes emotion, then action, then habit. If you dash it against the stone, you check it immediately. Is this aligned? Is this true? Does this lead to life? Cross-scripture unity. Psalm 137, stop misalignment at its earliest stage. Surah 8, cut off misalignment before it manifests. 2 Corinthians 10:5, bring every thought into alignment. If you don't deal with thoughts when they are small, you will have to fight them when they are strong. Important clarity. Surah 8:12 is not about violence toward people. It's about discernment toward thoughts and patterns. The danger is not in what grows. It is in what you allowed to start. Because every pattern was once a small thought. And wisdom is not proven in what you can overcome later, but in what you have the discernment to stop early. For centuries, words like war, battle, strike, destroy, kill have been read on the surface. And because of that, many have thought scripture was pointing outward. But what if these words are describing something happening within you? The battle is not against people, but patterns, thoughts, impulses, misalignment versus true. This is why Paul will say, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood. The battle is not against people, but against principalities, against powers. And people read this as demons or unseen beings. But principalities and powers and all those refer to patterns, thoughts, impulses, misalignment versus truth. Not unseen beings. Warfare is not fighting people. It is not external violence, but discipline of the mind, discernment of thoughts, alignment with truth. This is why Paul will say, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. The mind is the battlefield. The mind, not unseen beings. The mind. So warfare is discipline of the mind, discernment of thoughts, alignment with truth. The weapons across scriptures, truth, what aligns with life. Awareness, noticing the thought before it grows. Discipline, choosing not to follow every impulse. Love, choosing what builds, not what destroys. The real enemy is not outside of you, but within you. Unhealed patterns, reactive thinking, impulsive behavior. The battle is not won in your actions. It is won in your thoughts. You are not called to fight people. You are called to master what moves within you. Because the moment you learn how to discern a thought before it becomes a decision is the moment you step into true power. The greatest victory is not over others. It is over what once controlled you. Next is Surah 2, verse 190 to 193. 2:190. Fight in the way of Allah those who fight you, but do not transgress. Indeed, Allah does not love transgressors. 2 verse 191. And kill them wherever you encounter them, and expel them from wherever they expelled you. And persecution is worse than killing. But do not fight them at the sacred mosque unless they fight you there. But if they fight you, then kill them. Such is the recompense of those who oppose. 2 verse 192. But if they cease, then indeed Allah is forgiving and merciful. 2:193. Fight them until there is no more persecution and religion is for Allah. But if they cease, then there is to be no aggression except against oppressors. Before interpretation, notice the structure. Engage only when engaged. Do not transgress. Stop when they stop. Remove oppression. No aggression beyond that. This is not open violence. It is regulated, limited, conditional. This is addressing conflict under oppression. Key conditions. Only fight those who fight you. Do not transgress. Stop when they stop. So even at surface level, this is about defense, not aggression. Fight in the way mirrors John 14 verse 6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. The way in both places points to a path of alignment, a way of living rooted in truth. So, fight in the way becomes engage only in alignment with truth. Don't act outside the path. Relatable example. Before reacting, you ask, is this aligned with who I truly am? That is walking in the way. Fight those who fight you, not random conflict. Responding to what is actively opposing your alignment. Relatable example, a thought that keeps pulling you back. A habit that keeps disrupting your peace. That is something fighting you. Do not transgress, meaning, even in correction, stay aligned. Example, don't become harsh while trying to be disciplined. Don't destroy yourself trying to fix yourself. Surah 2:191, kill them wherever you encounter them. Symbolic meaning, completely end what is misaligned. Relatable example, ending a toxic pattern. Cutting off a destructive cycle. Not managing it, ending it. Sacred mosque. A sacred place is a space of awareness, presence, alignment. This mirrors Exodus 3:5. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Both point to an inner space of awareness. So, do not fight in the sacred mosque becomes, don't introduce conflict into your place of alignment. Relatable example, your peace, your stillness, your clarity. If something disturbs it, only respond if necessary. Don't bring chaos into your center. Expel them from where they expelled you. Meaning, reclaim your inner ground. Example, anxiety took your peace. Fear took your confidence. Now, you take it back. If they cease, then stop. Meaning, once alignment is restored, stop fighting. Example, Don't keep revisiting healed wounds. Don't keep attacking what is no longer active. 2:193, until there is no more persecution. Persecution equals ongoing internal pressure, repeated misalignment. Example, a pattern that keeps pulling you back. A mindset that keeps limiting you. Not every thought deserves a response. And not every battle deserves your energy. Because your peace is sacred ground. And wisdom is knowing what to remove and what to leave undisturbed. Next is Surah 4 verse 34. Men are caretakers, maintainers of women, because Allah has given one more responsibility, strength than the other, and because they spend from their wealth. So righteous women are devotedly aligned and guard what is unseen. As for those from whom you fear, nushus, rebellion or disruption, then advise them, separate from them in bed, and strike them. But if they obey you, seek no means against them. Indeed, Allah is most high, great. Notice the structure. Responsibility, caretaking. Alignment, mutual integrity. Disruption, nushus. Gradual response, 3 steps. Stop when alignment returns. This is not random authority. It is regulated responsibility plus conflict resolution. Let's look at men are caretakers or maintenance. The grounded meaning, responsibility, provision, accountability, not superiority, role-based responsibility. Symbolically, man can represent structure, responsibility, leadership energy. Woman can represent expression, relational space, nurtured environment. Relatable example, in any system, someone holds responsibility, someone maintains the space, but both are interdependent and valuable. Because they spend from their wealth, responsibility requires investment. Example, time, effort, emotional energy, provision. You don't lead without investing. Righteous women are devout, guarding what is unseen. Integrity even when unseen. Example, loyalty, consistency, trustworthiness, not performance, inner alignment. If you fear nushus, which is disruption, the key word, nushus, not simple disagreement, breakdown of harmony, or disruption of alignment. Example, repeated disrespect, breakdown of trust, misalignment in the relationship. The 3-step process. This is very important. Step 1, advise them, meaning communicate, address the issue. Example, Have a conversation. Express concern. Seek understanding. Step 2, separate in bed. Meaning, create space, not punishment. Pause for reflection. Example, emotional distance. Taking time apart. Stepping back to reassess. Strike them. This is where most misunderstanding happens. It looks violent, but the Arabic word daraba has multiple meanings. Strike, separate, set forth, distance. Consistent pattern based on the flow. The progression is communicate, create space, escalate action, but still within non-transgression. And remember, earlier in Surah 2:190, it says, do not transgress. So this is not about violence. Symbolically, this step represents firm boundary setting. Relatable example, if communication plus space fail, you enforce a boundary. Withdraw access. Redefine the relationship. Take decisive action. Not harm, clarity and consequence. If they return to alignment, stop. Meaning, once harmony is restored, no punishment, no control. Example, don't hold past issues over someone. Don't continue conflict after resolution. Let it go. The full message. Leadership is responsibility, not dominance. Relationships require investment. Integrity matters in private. Conflict must be handled progressively. Boundaries are necessary. Stop once alignment is restored. The tension we see in modern relationships today is not because people don't want love. It's because we've removed structure, responsibility, and clarity from it. Let's look at caretakers or maintenance. Modern reality. Today, relationships often look like two people figuring it out. No clear responsibility, no accountability. We are just going with the flow. What the verse is pointing to, someone must carry responsibility, invest consistently, maintain stability. Relatable truth. Every healthy system has structure, accountability, someone who ensures things don't fall apart. Investment is required. Modern reality. People want love without effort, connection without sacrifice, access without commitment. because they spend from their wealth. Leadership requires investment. Relatable truth. If someone is not investing time, effort, and consistency, they are not building, they are passing time. Integrity when no one is watching. Modern reality. Hidden conversations. Secret connections. Double lives. Guard what is unseen. Integrity in private. Relatable truth. Real trust is built on who you are when no one is watching. Conflict, where most relationships fail. Modern reality. When conflict comes, people shut down. People attack. People walk away immediately. But the verse gives a process. 3-step process. Step 1, communicate. Talk. Express. Address the issue. Step 2, create space. Step back. Reflect. Don't escalate immediately. Step 3, set boundaries. Redefine access. Establish consequences. Protect your peace. Relatable truth. Healthy relationships don't avoid conflict. They handle it with structure. The biggest issue today, no boundaries. Modern reality. Tolerating disrespect. Ignoring red flags. Staying in misalignment. What the verse teaches. When alignment breaks, address it. Set boundaries. Don't ignore it. If they return, stop. Modern reality, holding grudges. Bringing up the past. Punishing even after resolution. What the verse says, once alignment returns, release the conflict. Relatable truth. If you keep fighting after resolution, you are no longer solving, you are sustaining the problem. The big picture. Modern relationships struggle because of lack of responsibility, lack of investment, lack of structure, lack of boundaries. This verse restores responsibility, accountability, communication, boundaries, and resolution. Love without structure turns into confusion. A healthy relationship is not built on feelings alone. It is built on responsibility, on showing up, on investing, on handling conflict with wisdom, and knowing when to hold on and when to set a boundary. Because love is not just connection. It is how you sustain that connection over time. Next is Surah 24, verse 27 to 29. It starts with, do not enter houses other than your own. Example, you open your phone and immediately dive into other people's lives, comparing, judging, absorbing their energy. This is entering spaces that are not yours, taking in things that don't belong to your inner world. Not every space is meant for you to enter until you seek permission. Example, before watching something, you pause and ask, is this good for my mind? This is intentional access, conscious choice. Give permission before you allow anything into your mind. And greet their inhabitants. Example, instead of reacting immediately, you observe. What is this content carrying? Is this peaceful, chaotic, uplifting? This is awareness of what you are engaging with. Recognizing the energy or nature of what you are entering. Be aware of what lives in the spaces you enter. That is better for you so that you may be mindful. Example, when you filter what you watch and listen to, your mind becomes calmer. Your decisions become clearer. Intentional living leads to awareness. Mindfulness grows when you choose carefully. And if you find no one in them, example, you engage with something empty, content with no value, no depth, no growth. Meaning, nothing meaningful is present, no substance. Not everything has value, even if it's available. Then do not enter them. Example, instead of consuming empty content, you choose to walk away. This is restraint, discipline. You don't have to engage with everything. Until permission has been given to you. Example, you wait until something aligns with your growth, your peace, your direction. This is alignment, readiness, discernment. Only allow what aligns with your growth. And if it is said to you, go back, then go back. Example, you try something, a conversation, environment, or content, but something in you says, this isn't right for me, and you leave. This is listening to inner discernment. Honor when something is not for you. It is purer for you. Example, walking away from toxic spaces protects your peace. This is protection, clarity, inner cleanliness. Walking away can protect your inner world. And Allah knows what you reveal and what you conceal. Example, you may look calm outwardly, but inside, you know what you are feeding your mind. Awareness goes beyond appearance. Truth sees both inner and outer. What is within matters just as much as what is seen. putting it together, this passage is showing, be intentional about what you engage. Be aware of what you consume. Walk away when needed. Protect your inner space. Your inner world is shaped by what you allow into it. Not everything deserves access to you. Next is Surah 24, verse 30 to 31. Tell the believing men. Example, someone committed to growth. Someone trying to live intentionally. This is not just anyone, but someone aligned with truth. This is for those who are choosing awareness, to lower their gaze. Example, you are scrolling and see content that triggers comparison or distraction. Instead of indulging, you scroll past. This is controlling attention, choosing focus. Where your attention goes, your life follows. And guard their private parts. Example, you protect your inner thoughts. You don't entertain harmful fantasies, negativity, or destructive habits. This is guarding the inner world, protecting what is unseen. Protect what is happening within you. That is purer for them. Example, when you filter what you consume, your mind becomes clearer and lighter. This is clarity, inner cleanliness. Discipline brings inner clarity. Indeed, Allah is acquainted with what they do. Example, even if no one sees your habits, you know what you are feeding your mind. This is awareness beyond appearance. Truth sees all. Nothing within you is hidden from truth. Surah 24 verse 31, and tell the believing women. Remember, the feminine aspect represents the emotional realm, the soul, your inner realm. So tell the believing women is someone working on emotional growth. Someone learning to be intentional with their inner life. This is the soul, the emotional realm. This speaks to your inner world and emotional space. To lower their gaze. Example, avoiding comparison, envy, or emotional triggers. Choosing peace over reaction. This is emotional discipline, controlling what affects you. Not everything deserves your emotional attention. And guard their private parts. Example, not exposing your deepest emotions or vulnerabilities to unsafe spaces. Protecting your inner peace. This is emotional boundaries, inner protection. Protect your inner space, emotionally and mentally. And not expose their adornment. Example, not seeking validation through constant external approval. Not putting everything about yourself on display. meaning discernment in what you reveal, value of privacy. Not everything within you needs to be displayed. Except that which naturally appears. Example, your natural personality, presence, and expression without forcing or overexposing. This is authenticity, natural expression. Let what is natural flow without forcing exposure. And draw their coverings over their chests. Example, guarding your heart. Being intentional with who has access to your emotions. This is protection of the heart. Emotional boundaries. Guard your heart. It shapes your life. Except to their husbands, what you are committed to. Example, a mindset, habit, or path you've chosen. Their fathers, origin or foundation. Example, your core beliefs, your upbringing. Their sons, outward expressions. Example, your actions and results. Their right hand, authority or control. Example, your decisions, your discipline. Children, early stages. Example, new habits forming. What you are connected to shapes what you produce. Do not stamp their feet. Example, doing things for attention. Subtle ways of seeking validation. This is intention behind actions. Check the intention behind what you do. And turn to Allah. Example, pausing, reflecting, realigning, meaning returning to truth, awareness, realignment is always available. That you may succeed. Example, living with clarity, peace, direction, meaning success as alignment, not just external achievement. Core line, true success is living in alignment. Putting it all together, the verse is saying, control your focus. Guard your inner world. Be intentional with exposure. Choose what you align with. Protect your emotional space. Return to truth. What you allow, focus on, and protect becomes your life. So ask yourself, what am I allowing into my space? What am I focused on daily? What am I protecting? What am I aligned with? What am I becoming? Because your life is shaped by what you allow, directed by what you focus on, and transformed by what you align with. So guard your space, discipline your focus, align your life, and growth will follow. Next is Surah 56. When we read verses about paradise, many see a distant place, physical reward. But when we slow down, we begin to see a pattern, a state, an experience of alignment. Paradise is a state of alignment, what the Bible calls the promised land. It is not a location, it is a state of alignment. Let's look at reclining on thrones. A throne represents authority, governance, rulership. So reclining on thrones means you are no longer scattered. You are seated. You are stable. Alignment brings stability and authority. Young boys made eternal. This can represent fresh awareness, renewed perception, developing understanding. Awareness is no longer corrupted. It is pure. It is sustained. In alignment, awareness becomes clear and renewed. Vessels and flowing spring. Vessels represents the body. Flowing spring is the life within. Connect these two. Out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water. What flows from within is now pure, is now life-giving. When aligned, what flows from you gives life. Fruit is what is produced. Connect to Genesis 2 and 3. What you eat, what you internalize, what you consume determines what you produce. Your output reflects what you've taken in. Meat represents deeper substance, deeper understanding, not surface level, but deeper truth. Growth requires depth, not just surface input. Fowl represents thoughts in motion. Remember, the fowls of the air. Thoughts in motion. Your thoughts are no longer chaotic. They are aligned. They are intentional. Aligned thinking produces a stable life. Pearls represents valuable understanding or insight. Connect to, do not cast your pearls before swine. Meaning, insight is valuable. Not everything deserves it. Wisdom is precious. Handle it carefully. Garments represent identity, role, expression. Meaning, you are clothed in alignment. Your identity reflects truth. Your identity reflects your alignment. Now bring everything together. Authority, throne. Awareness, young boys. Flow, spring. Production, fruit, depth, meat, thoughts, fowl, wisdom, pearls, identity, garments. Paradise is the state where everything within you is aligned. Paradise in the Quran and the new heaven and new earth in the book of Revelation may seem like different descriptions. But when we slow down, we begin to see the same pattern, the same movement, the same outcome, different language, same transformation. Revelation says they will reign. Surah 56 says reclining on thrones. Connection, authority restored, stability, rulership. Alignment restores your inner authority. Revelation says river of the water of life. Surah 56 says flowing spring. Connection, life flowing from within, not external dependency. When aligned, life flows from within you. Revelation says tree of life bearing fruit. Surah 56 says fruit of what they select. Connection, production, manifestation, outcome. What you produce reflects your alignment. Revelation says no more tears, no more death. Surah 56 says no ill speech, no falsehood. Connection, absence of distortion, absence of chaos. Alignment removes internal conflict. Revelation says clothed in white garments. Surah says garments of silk. Connection, identity, expression, transformation. Your identity reflects your inner state. Revelation says gates of pearl. Surah says like pearls well protected. Connection, value, purity, precious insight. What is refined becomes valuable. Now bring it together. Revelation, new heaven and new earth, new Jerusalem. Surah, gardens, paradise. Both are describing a new state, a transformed condition, an integrated self. This is a state of complete alignment. This is what happens when everything within you aligns. Gardens and vineyards. A garden represents a cultivated space, something intentional, something tended. Connect it to the Garden of Eden. Man placed in the garden to tend and keep it. Your inner world is a garden. What you cultivate grows. What you cultivate within determines what grows in your life. Full-breasted companions. This points to nourishment, sustenance, satisfaction. Connect to Song of Songs. Let her breast satisfy you. Meaning, what you are connected to nourishes you. You become what nourishes you. A full cup. A cup represents what you partake in, what you experience. Connect it to Jesus saying, "Let this cup pass from me." The cup is your experience. What fills your life? What you drink from shapes your experience. A reward from your Lord. Connect it to Paul saying, "We shall receive a crown." Reward is not random. It is the result of alignment. What you become produces what you receive. We will marry them. Marriage represents union, joining, becoming one. Women represents the soul, the emotional realm. Eyes represents perception, how you see. Your perception aligns with your inner state. Your soul is joined to what you align with. What you are joined to shapes how you see. Now, let's look at relatable examples for Surah 78 verse 31 to 36 and 52 verse 19 to 21. Let's start with Surah 78 verse 31 to 32. Relatable examples. Indeed, for the righteous is attainment. Example, someone who consistently chooses growth, discipline, and truth. Over time, their life becomes stable and clear. Alignment produces results. Gardens and vineyards. Example, you invest in your mindset daily. Reading, reflecting, learning. Over time, your inner world becomes calm, structured, and fruitful. What you cultivate within grows. Surah 78 verse 33, and full-breasted companions of equal age. Example, you surround yourself with content, people, and ideas that nourish your growth and understanding. Instead of draining you, they strengthen you. What you are connected to nourishes you. Surah 78 verse 34, and a full cup. Example, your daily experiences. What you take in emotionally and mentally. If you fill your life with peace, clarity, and purpose, that becomes your experience. What fills your life shapes your experience. Surah 78 verse 35, no ill speech, no falsehood. Example, you stop entertaining gossip, negativity, or confusion. Now, your mind becomes quiet. Your thinking becomes clear. Clarity grows when noise is removed. Surah 78 verse 36, a reward from your Lord. Example, after consistent discipline and growth, your life begins to reflect peace and stability. What you become determines what you experience. Surah 52 verse 19, eat and drink in satisfaction. Example, you are no longer chasing confusion. You feel grounded and content. Alignment brings satisfaction. For what you used to do. Example, the habits you built over time now produce results. Your present reflects your past choices. Surah 52 verse 20, reclining on thrones. Example, you are no longer unstable. You feel secure and grounded. Stability is the result of alignment. We will marry them. Example, you commit fully to a mindset, a path, or a way of living. What you commit to shapes your life. To companions with beautiful eyes. Example, your perception changes. You begin to see clearly. Alignment transforms how you see. Surah 52 verse 21, those who believed and whose descendants followed them. Example, your habits create patterns. Your patterns shape your future. What you build continues beyond you. Remember, a good name is better than riches. What you build continues beyond you. Putting it all together, the texts are saying, cultivate your inner world. Connect to what nourishes you. Be mindful of what fuels your life. Remove noise and confusion. Commit to alignment. Develop clear perception. Build consistently. What you cultivate, consume, and commit to becomes your reality. So now, we've taken the time to slow down, to look again, to read beyond the surface. And what we begin to see is this. These verses are not random. They are not isolated. There is a pattern, a consistent language, a deeper structure, a message pointing inward. And if that's true, then maybe the issue was never the text. Maybe it was how we were taught to read it, how quickly we concluded, how rarely we paused to look deeper. So, I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm inviting you to do something much more powerful. Go back to both scriptures. Read it slowly. Look at the full context and see the pattern for yourself. Because truth does not fear examination. And when you begin to see it, You don't need to defend it. You simply recognize it. What was once confusing begins to make sense when you learn how to see. Take your time with it, and I will see you in the next one.